Premier League TV rights to be probed by Ofcom. This is from November 18th, 2014. Broadcasting watchdog Ofcom has opened an investigation into how the Premier League sells TV media rights for its football matches, live TV media rights for its football matches in the UK. It follows a complaint from Virgin Media, which said more matches should be available for live broadcast. In a statement, the Premier League said that the way it sold its audiovisual rights was compatible with UK and EU competition law. Sky and BT share the rights to televise Premier League football games. The price for the latest rights deal covering 2013 to 2016 rose by 70%, 7-0, to $3 billion when it was announced in 2012. The Premier League will soon be starting the bidding process for the next tranche of rights from 2016 onwards. Virgin claims that the current arrangements for the collective selling of live UK television rights by the Premier League for matches played by its member clubs is in breach of competition law. In particular, it has raised concerns about the number of Premier League matches for which live broadcasting rights are made available. Ofcom said Virgin Media argues that the proportion of matches made available for live television broadcast under the current Premier League rights deals at 41% is lower than some other leading European leagues where more matches are available for live television broadcast. Virgin argues that this contributes to higher prices for consumers of pay TV packages that include premium sport channels and for the pay TV of retailers of premium sports channels. Tom Mockridge, Virgin Media's chief executive, called Ofcom's investigation welcome news. The fact remains that fans in the UK pay the highest prices in Europe to watch the least amount of football on TV. Now is the right time to look again at the way live rights are sold to make football even more accessible, he said. We look forward to working constructively with the Premier League, the wider industry and Ofcom to ensure a better deal for football fans. In a statement, the Premier League said, "We note that Ofcom has launched an inquiry. Ofcom has stated that it is at an early stage and it has not reached a view as to whether there is sufficient evidence of any infringement. The Premier League currently sells audiovisual rights in a way that is currently compatible with UK and EU competition law and will continue to do so." Now, Ofcom said the investigation will be carried out under the terms of the Competition Act. It added it was also mindful of the likely timing of the next auction of live UK audiovisual media rights and is open to discussion with the Premier League about its plans. Ofcom said it would also look at the issue of how many games are moved from their traditional 3 p.m. kickoffs on Saturdays because of TV scheduling needs. As part of this, it will approach the Football Supporters Federation and certain other supporters groups to understand their views. Malcolm Clark, chair of the Football Supporters Federation, said Premier League football might be a global phenomenon, but without fans in the stands, it wouldn't have the same appeal. People want to see the world's best players, but they also want to see stands packed to the rafters with fans. That vibrancy is a key part of the TV product. Ofcom also acknowledges the importance of Saturday 3 p.m. kickoffs to fans. All too often, TV needs come before match-going supporters as games are shunted around the calendar. Now, wanted to mention this in brief at least, because it's usually always the fans that get shafted, and the Virgin Media chief executive, Mr. Mockridge. I can understand what he's saying. And it's good that obviously the Premier League and Ofcom are going to look at are going to discuss with the Football Supporters Federation and a couple of other fan groups, because at the Liverpool match versus Stoke, there actually was a protest about ticket prices. Now, for me, slight double-edged sword here. If the TV rights are spread out between more entities, the fans are the ones who always got the shaft, because if you're paying 40 to 50 quid for Sky and adding Sky, obviously having Sky Sports within that as well, then you're having to add, then to get the other games from BT Sport, you're having to add another 5 to 10 quid onto that. That's like 60, 65, 70 quid. If another entity jumps in, those prices are not moving, they're not coming down. If anything, you're probably going to have to add another 5 to 10 quid to watch the rest of the games. So when it's all said and done, you're probably going to be paying anything between 70 and about 90 quid to watch all the games. So it's one of them was, okay, so what's your other option? All right, that's per month, by the way. So what's your other option? All right, let me get out to more matches. But tickets, especially with the Premier League, are anything between 40 and 80 quid. Double-edged sword here. Now, the one thing that splitting the TV rights again could cause is yeah, there might not be a lot of butts on seats, to coin a phrase from Tony Schiavone from that game. It's one of them ones. You just think of it of, oh, so more football on TV. That'll put a lot of butts in the seats. Ugh. One of them was to coin that line. But for me, it's. I personally think, yeah, the TV rights, the way they're split, needs to be probed just to make sure it's fair. But at the same time, I mean, and I'm also glad that they're looking at it from the perspective of, all right, how many of these games are getting moved around the calendar? Because there's so many games that get moved from a 3 p.m. on a Saturday to a 4 p.m. on a Sunday, or a 5:30 p.m. on a Sunday, just so they can get more viewers. And it's like, all right, you can understand it from Sky or BT Sports perspective, but the fans get mucked around. Especially if fans have made plans to go to those games, then you have to revise your travel plans. And usually it comes up at somewhat short notice, so like a week or two before. So the price to switch tickets and stuff like that is expensive. And some people who work on that weekends can't go to those matches anymore because of the timings being switched. So it's one of them ones. I mean, I know that pain only too well from the past 7 months working, and I've basically missed quite a few of the Ibis Freeze games. But for me, the other part of the double-edged sword is that potentially more games getting shown live on TV could force the hand of certain clubs, because it could make them think, you know what? Ooh, we got to be a touch careful with this, because if we're charging 60 quid, people are going to end up just watching the games at home, paying subscription fees and watching the games at home. So I think that's part of the issue that clubs have got to be mindful of, and of course the Premier League has to be mindful of, because as they've said, if there's not the behinds in seats, then it takes away from the atmosphere. But you can't keep driving up these prices and expecting people to pay it. But with the subscription fees being so high, people may just drift away totally because they just can't afford it. So it's an interesting one. But I said if more football is shown on TV, then it may encourage more teams to lower their prices a bit, just to compete with the TV stations. But you never know. I mean, do any of the Skypers want to jump in on this issue, by the way? Because it's one of them ones. It is kind of it is somewhat of a thorny issue. It is definitely somewhat of a thorny issue. Basically the Premier League TV rights to be probed by Ofcom, and basically opening an investigation into how the Premier League sells the TV media rights. Jamie Bailey, you want to have that?
Yeah, welcome to the Championship, where things are so much easier and a lot more better. So, yeah, that's my gripe about it.
All right, explain that. You got to explain that for those listening.
Well, it's either the Championship, League One or League Two, and it seems like the Premiership is going in a different direction when it comes to money. Everybody wants to get to the Premiership, blah, blah, blah. It looks like, as far as I've heard from a lot of people, including when I was at QPR, it would have been easier for most clubs to stay in the Championship. And this just pretty much proves the point. So if it's going in that direction, well, there you go. That's how I see it.
If it's going in that direction, silence.
It's true. Well, I can't really say too much about it. As far as I'm concerned, we're in the right position. Fulham are in the right position, and Arsenal are just going to be doing the same thing over and over again. So, as far as I see it, if we're going to be priced out of getting tickets for matches, we might as well stay in the Championship. Be a lot more easier just to watch. And a lot more stadiums full up as well.
See, this is the interest. That's actually quite an interesting thing you bring up. Actually, it might be easier saying in the championship just purely on the basis of your ground's more full because the tickets are cheaper. I mean, it's a concern. It's a concerning one that actually might be the mindset of a lot of clubs. It's so expensive to go up the Premiership, and even like we mentioned a couple of weeks ago in terms of Sean Dyche's comments with the financial chasm between the Championship and the Premier League. It's just widening and widening and widening, and if you haven't got that financial base, if you haven't got not even just financial stability, but if you haven't got financial power, then you're setting yourself up for quite an expensive fall.
Well, that's the problem with Premiership football. They've forgotten that they still do have a country just to actually help out, and half of their community-based things are not benefiting the clubs themselves. They're benefiting just because they've got their name on the brand. So as far as I'm seeing it, whether you go up to the Premiership or not, the likelihood is that everybody has pretty much told me if you go further down in the Championship and everything like that, you're likely to see better football. It's like going to Germany. Everybody wants to see Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Wolfsburg, all the top clubs. And you know why? Because they don't really ask FIFA for big payouts, because Germany on a whole doesn't have any debts. It's the same thing and it goes back to that whole talk about politics. So as far as I'm seeing it, it's always going to come down to when you've got power, you're going to do stupid things with it, and that's exactly what they're doing. So if they're going to be doing this whole TV rights thing that they can't bring down a bit of money on certain things, especially the TV deals. When it comes to Sky Sports, now everybody knows why British BT Sport has come into play, and a lot more other things as well. So,
what's the case of? I mean, Virgin Media are like, right, we want. What's it? They're arguing that the proportion of matches made available is lower than some other leading European leagues, but for me, it partly sounds like Virgin Media are not necessarily looking at this and this is my major issue with it. Virgin Media are not necessarily looking at this for the good of football. They're looking at it just like, oh wait, we want in on that. We want a piece of the pie. We want some of that money. I don't think they're looking at it for the good of football, which is why Ofcom, it's crucial that they work with the Premier League so that at least the Premier League can at least try and consider. You'd hope that they'd consider, right, let's sort out this TV rights thing for the good of the game. Because as I said, I don't think Virgin Media are coming from any sort of benevolent or altruistic kind of viewpoint on this. I think they are very much looking at it as, right, we want a piece of the pie. We want some of this TV money. How do we get it? Complain to Ofcom that not enough matches are being shown.
If you look at it, 3 billion was given to the Premiership.
Yeah.
So how was it that they can't share it out amongst the clubs, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly within the sport?
No, but the fact is, it is shared amongst the clubs, but it's only the Premier League clubs.
That's what I mean.
That's a problem that we've discussed. That's a problem that we've discussed before. I mean, we discussed that on a previous show when we first got news of the 3 billion deal being signed. But with this, in terms of the latest rights deal, as said, it seems like Virgin Media just want a piece of the pie. So they're not doing it for the good of football, and that is the major problem.
Well, I'll come up with something that Notorious B.I.G. said in one of his titled songs.
Oh, I know where you're
going. More money,
with this.
more problems.
Yeah, definitely. And in football, more power, more corruption.